1 in 3 is intended for mature audiences. Episodes contain explicit content and may be triggering as they often include violence and other varying forms of abuse such as emotional, psychological, sexual, and physical. In most cases, names have been changed to protect all involved. Please note, statements and opinions of guests do not necessarily reflect those of my own. Hi warriors, welcome to 1 in 3. I'm your host Ingrid. I've brought you a lot of information over the last 2 years on the subject of domestic violence, and in that time frame, I've welcomed fellow survivors, professionals, and advocates to lend their expertise and their experience on the subject. I've loved every single opportunity. Today is no different, although today's episode does look a little bit different. Today, we're talking about love after abuse. How it feels, what it looks like, and how to be okay with it. Don't worry, I'm not doing this by myself. I am welcoming on life coach and fellow podcaster, host of Life Coached, Kimberly Mathis. Hi, Kimberly. Welcome to 1 in 3. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be here.
I'm very, very excited. I know I was just telling you this, but typically the episodes I have are a little bit of a heavier topic, and we're not ignoring the domestic violence or abuse aspect, but this is a lighter side of it. It can be a lighter side of it. I guess still could be heavy, but we're going to talk about dating and how that happens after abuse, because it has to happen eventually.
Yeah.
But before we get started, do you mind just kind of giving a little bit of a background on yourself?
Sure. I was formerly a licensed marriage and family therapist in private practice for several years. And as with so many other things, when COVID happened in 2020, it seemed like a time to pivot. I'd always wanted to do coaching. So I had recently finished up a coaching training and certification, and I transitioned into that and was doing coaching only, and I guess the start of 2021, and so have been a life coach ever since. Really more of a general life coach. I do have a lot of knowledge because of my own experience with getting a later in life ADHD diagnosis, so I have a lot of knowledge about working with neurodivergent brains. But I would say I have worked with people on anything and everything, and the underlying theme in all of it is helping them change things that feel very unchangeable. So whether that's relationship dynamics, things about themselves, their idea of themselves, we figure out a way to move towards that.
And that, I think, is a huge concept of dating post-abuse, because one, you think, this is me, this is just the type I go for. I just happen to find these kind of men or women. And I mean, dating kind of sucks anyway. But I think that's a huge concept in post-abuse dating. So, so there were a few questions I sent you, and I think we can start with getting out there again when somebody is ready. It's really hard to differentiate between what actually is, a red flag versus is this just something that my previous trauma is causing me to think is an issue.
Yeah. I love all of the questions that you were kind of thinking through ahead of this. And I think one of the things I love about them is something that frustrates me when I see a lot of stuff online. A lot of things, a lot of content feels very black and white, and everything is just so much more nuanced, which is kind of frustrating when you are really trying to do some work on yourself or improve something, change something. It'd be so much more helpful just to have a very clear cut, black and white, like this is good, this is bad, do this, don't do that. But life is just way more complicated. People and situations are way more complex. So the very first thing I thought of when I saw this question, like how can I tell the difference between red flags and my own trauma responses, is that red flags can be different for a lot of people. Some people, like, there's a compatibility issue that we have to think about. So something that like would not work for someone else and would trigger all sorts of things doesn't have that same response in someone else. So the way I think about it, like a red flag versus a trauma response, is that a trauma response, that is something happening within you. That is your, like, whatever is coming up, it's your experience. It's then the sensations, the feelings, the thoughts that are coming up in you. And a red flag, I think, is someone else's response to you. So I might say, I'm having a lot of anxiety, like that really bothered me. Oof, that something about that feels really icky. I share that with another person. How they handle that information and respond to it is the red flag, or not red flag or green flag that I'm looking for.
That makes sense.
Does that make sense?
It does. So, I mean, it boils down to communicating, being able to communicate with a person and say, this is me, this is bothering me. And
yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And the things that I'm looking for are whether or not they are dismissive or they're validating, whether or not they are trying to talk me out of it really quickly, or they're just able to like be there with me while it's happening and they don't have to necessarily fix it. Whether they are willing to have more of a discussion about it where they're curious and trying to understand. They're not trying to just give me their opinion or their perspective. I'm definitely going to pay attention to things like if they're making me feel silly or belittled or talked down to or like I'm crazy. I'm going to be paying attention to those sorts of things. That kind of response to whatever is happening within me is not the kind of response I'm looking for in a safe partner.
Right. That makes total sense. And so, okay, so then I have another question about the trauma responses. So when is it, or is it ever okay to start discussing your past trauma with a partner?
Yeah. Now, my personal opinion is that if you're going to be in a relationship with someone and they're going to have a significant role in your life, you're looking to build a long-term partnership with someone, they should know about it. Because it at some point, like it's not like you either tell them or you never tell them and it's got to start at the very beginning. But at some point they should know about it because it has been such a significant factor in your life and who you are and how you are navigating relationships. So yes, I do think you should tell them. Now, I think there are layers to that information and that story. And you can say, I do have a history of some pretty difficult relationships, maybe even some abuse. You could say that early on. You don't have to get into all of the details of it until you're ready to.
It makes sense. Probably not like date number one material. Right.
And I also think it depends a lot on where you are in your processing of it and your recovery from it. If it feels like it's a very fresh, wound that is still, needing to be tended to, like probably you want to be extra protective around it. And that's the way I think about it. It's not secretive. We're not trying to hide it. There's a difference between secrecy and privacy. Like secrets, we're hiding. We're ashamed of them. We don't feel comfortable with them. Privacy is protective. And we need to be protective with those parts of us until we know that the other person that we're sharing them with is a safe person to share those with and will be respectful and will be, what's the word I'm looking for? Like we'll just be an emotionally safe person to hold that information from us.
Right. And I mean, I guess, if you're really unsure of, if you're still feeling freshly wounded, maybe not jump into the dating scene quite yet. Maybe that's something that you need to do some more inner reflection and inner healing before you jump into involving another person into your life.
A lot of people have a lot of opinions around, how long you should be single and learning to love yourself. And again, I think anything that sounds too black and white is just, it's missing the whole picture. And I think it's totally subjective. It varies for everyone. But at some point, it doesn't matter how much healing you have done and how much you care and love about yourself. You can't learn to be in a healthy relationship until you're in a relationship practicing all of those skills. You can't learn it all ahead of time and then be like, okay, now I'm ready.
Right.
And then nothing, like the relationship will just go smoothly and everything's fine and nothing comes up. Like being in relationship with someone else is just a playground for those skills, and experimenting with them and practicing and learning how to do it better, putting it into practice.
Yeah, that makes sense too. You can't train for dating before getting out there. Just a little bit off topic. So I know in one of your episodes you mentioned, did we say that you have a podcast? I don't remember.
No, we did.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. I forgot, didn't even think about it.
Yeah. So go ahead and just say
I have a podcast. It's, it used to be called Decisions Change Everything. That was a mouthful for me. So I changed it to Life Coach. And you can find it on Spotify or Apple Podcasts.
Okay. And so I was listening to one of your episodes and you had mentioned Facebook dating. And I tried that a little bit. I had never done online dating before. And I thought this one would be pretty easy. And you can see who, if you have mutual friends, then that kind of helps too. I had to have a few friends steer me away from like, no, not him.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But I didn't have any awful dates. I only went on 3 first dates, and they all were good. But I just decided, I'm like, I don't think I just don't want to date right now. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I don't think I have any fresh wounds or I'm not healed or anything. It's just not a place I want to be in right now.
It takes a lot of energy.
It does. It really does.
Like it really does. Even if you are not on apps and you're like just trying to go out, it's that process of investing any time and energy, conversation into another human being. And it takes effort, even on date 1 or date 2. And if it doesn't go anywhere and that keeps happening over and over again, that can be really tiring.
It can. And then even just the conversations to get to that first date is just so... I mean, how many times... And I know when you go on a first date, when you meet somebody out in the wild, it's the same thing. You're getting to know people and you're having the same conversations over and over again. But just the whole online thing where I can be having the same conversation with 5 different people all at the same time, and I'm just repeating myself over and over again. I couldn't do it. And I thought, what? Let me just be okay with where I am right now. But so I didn't have, I wasn't having expectations when I went on these first dates. So it wasn't like I was analyzing anything at all. But if I were, maybe if it was the second date or even the third date or whatever, and I was feeling actual feelings for this person and thinking, perhaps we can start taking this to the next step. How do you determine if somebody is genuinely a nice person, genuinely interested versus the whole love bombing?
Oh, I love this question. Because what I want to emphasize is that good people engage in love bombing. Like, I think originally when we kind of talked about this topic, it was like, how do you know if someone is a good person or if they're love bombing? And the fact is, good people love bomb, because that kind of behavior is just a unhealthy, maladaptive behavior. And good people have not great relationship skills. Good people can have very kind hearts and not have learned, healthier ways of engaging and relating. So I don't think love bombing in and of itself is always evil or bad, but it is always like maladaptive. It is always like not exactly healthy. And I don't know if we need to like review what love bombing is. If your audience is like, oh, I know what that means.
Maybe actually, I'm sure pretty much everyone is coming in having a general idea, but I think that has been used so much.
Yeah. It's just way too much, way too fast. It's a lot of grandiose statements like, you're the most amazing woman I've ever met in my life on like date 3, or I just don't want to be with anybody else. Like, or it could be statements that kind of like elevate you above them. Like it feels like they're putting you on a pedestal. Mm-hmm. I can't believe you want to go out with me again. It's just too much. And listen, I have ADHD. I have some raging ADHD. I can go like all in on something. That for sure is one of my old patterns, just because I get so excited. And that in and of itself isn't a bad thing. But I think when you are the receiver of that, and maybe especially when you have a history of like, ooh, I fell for that. Like that really pulled me into a relationship that was not good very quickly. Mm-hmm. I think when you have that sense of like, ugh, this makes me slightly uncomfortable, the thing to do is to bring it up. The thing to do is to say, it's really sweet of you, but it's making me a little uncomfortable. It just feels like a little too much. Like I want to get to know you better. Something about it is not okay. And again, the thing I'm looking for is how the other person responds to that.
Right.
Right.
And there's
yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say there's probably a few clues to where they're not having the response that you want. So they could go down the route of, victim-ish of, I can never do anything right. I'm so sorry. Let me try again. And almost like this grovelly.
Yep. Red flag.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Or just completely dismiss what you said and continue doing what they're doing.
Yep.
But yeah, you go ahead. You're the professional here. I'm just talking.
I was going to say like it's those things exactly. Like that, especially early on when you don't know a lot about this person and maybe their response is like, I can't do anything right. And I knew like this was too good to be true. That's a no-no for me, because what that behavior is doing is it's like, you told me something that you didn't like. I'm unable to handle that. So now I'm emotionally like putting you in a position where I want you to make me feel better.
Right. And then now you're turning into comforting them, even though you were the one who felt uncomfortable.
Yes. Yep. So what we want is like more of a response like, oh my gosh, thank you for telling me. Like, yeah, I can see that. Like, I just get so excited. I really like you. I will tone it down. I don't want to make you uncomfortable. And that you actually see some follow through with that they stop making those same sorts of comments, that they do pull back a little bit, that they aren't pushing as much. Because again, like I said, some people can be very good people. This is how they were in past relationships. Maybe it's how they saw relationships modeled to them, around them as they were growing up. They just may not know better. So it's what they do with the information that you give them about what's making you uncomfortable that I think matters more than whether or not they're just engaging with that off the get-go.
Yeah. And let's be honest, when you start a new relationship, everybody is on their best behavior. Yes. And you're putting your best foot forward, and you want, if you like the other person, you want them to like you back. So you're going to maybe not show all your dirty, crazy or whatever. And that could be considered love bombing in a way of their, portraying a different version, but it's just the consistency and the repetitive factor. So when you were saying, if they scale back and they change, that's great. But then you also have to keep an eye out for, is it going to happen again in a couple of weeks? And then is this a conversation that keeps happening over and over and over again? Then then it seems more that they're just placating you. Let me make these changes until they forget about this bothering them, and I'll go back to my normal self.
Yeah. Yeah. Love bombing is just, it tends to feel like pressure. It tends to feel a little uncomfortable. Like, sure, it's nice. I want someone to like me so much, but this is like a lot, like it's, I guess it's okay for them to say those things, but it's making me feel a little like there's just a little something that feels off. A lot of times love bombing will look like push for a speed of moving forward that maybe isn't what you were thinking or just seems a little too fast. If it's a great partner for you, it's okay for it to go a little bit slower. It's okay if you're like, no, I don't want to spend every waking minute together at the very start when we barely know each other. It's okay to have some boundaries. If they're a good partner for you, they aren't going to make your boundaries mean something negative. They're just going to be like, oh, this is just information for me. Okay, sure.
Yes. And speaking of boundaries, I feel like they don't, and I'm only saying this because I have a friend who is going through something like this. They don't need to know where you are all the time, really, ever. I think if you are both capable adults, unless you're going into a dangerous area and you need somebody to make sure that you're okay. But on a day-to-day basis, there's absolutely no reason why anybody needs to know where you are every minute.
Oh, no.
Every day.
That immediately, in my mind, that's pinging my radar for like controlling.
Absolutely.
Issues.
Absolutely.
Yep. Someone who is, it gives a vibe of distrust of you. And that is no way to start off a relationship.
Right. And I mean, I get that, I'm in my late 40s now, and anybody my age or, even plus or minus 10 years, we're coming to the table with baggage. And it's difficult to see, like, is he coming with his own baggage? Obviously he has his own baggage, but is he damaged? Has he been hurt before? And is that why he has this need?
The thing I could like get on a soapbox about this because as a recovering people pleaser myself and a codependent, like I have this, it's probably why I do a lot of the work I do and got into it, is I am very empathetic. Like I feel for people. I can like really feel what they must be feeling when I like put myself in that situation, have a lot of empathy, but that his baggage, what he has been through, ultimately it does not matter. It gives you context. It does not give you an excuse for it. Like, even if they do have all their baggage and you say, I don't want to tell you, I just don't feel like that's necessary. I feel like we're not at that point in our relationship. Like something about it doesn't feel good to me for you to know where I am all the time. If that stirs up things for them, they need to go talk to a therapist about it. They need to go figure out how to manage those feelings, because what they're essentially doing is having a lot of discomfort with whatever's coming up for them, and they're wanting you to manage it through your behavior.
Right. Okay.
You know, like it will make me feel better if you turn on your location all the time because I'm insecure.
Right. And yeah. Oof. Yeah. And I mean, that goes the other way too. Like if that's something that, is your issue, that you need to know where he is or she is all the time, then that's another time you need to kind of look into yourself. Like, okay, what's going on here? Yeah. Because, that's not okay. I shouldn't be controlling somebody else in the same respect.
Yep.
Okay, so let's say now you finally get into a relationship and things are good, but you're not used to a good relationship. You're used to chaos and drama and being second guessed and doing things on your own and having different expectations. How do you then accept the good stuff, like accept the support and not wonder if there's an ulterior motive behind it? How do you accept the understanding and not think that it's like some sort of gaslighting happening? And even if you're not second guessing the intentions, how do you just live and understand that there is another person that truly cares for you and wants to support you?
Yeah. I think, I've noticed this so much in my current relationship. I did a podcast episode on it where I had my boyfriend on and we talked about how difficult it has been for me to have a partner that's so supportive and emotionally available and emotionally intelligent, because I'm just not used to it. And one of the things I noticed that is an old habit is me trying to figure out what he really means or feels, what he's really thinking, and part of my learning has been like, that may come up. Like it's been wired in there for a long time. I did that for a long time. So it may still come up and I can't get rid of that. My job is to get a whole lot better at recognizing it when it's coming up and to learn it's almost like a mantra of sorts that I want to let an adult be an adult. It's not my job to figure it out. It's his job as an adult to tell me what he's really thinking and feeling. And if he's not doing that, if he's lying to me, there's also not much I can do about that, right? I can't be the mind reader. I can't make him do that. I can't be on his case. So if he's lying to me, like at some point that will come out probably. And then I have information that I'm going to have to make a decision with. Mm-hmm. But in the meantime, it's much better on my mental health just to assume the best, assume that he is an adult. If he didn't say X, Y, or Z, I don't need to try to mind read and figure it out and interpret his behavior. So I think in past relationships, when I haven't done that, when I have tried to figure it out, when I've pressed something or pushed something are you sure that's what you mean? Or, just ruminating about it, I've almost created a situation, a dynamic where they didn't have to figure out how to communicate because I was always kind of doing the work for them. Does that make sense?
It totally does.
And I would pull it out of you. Mm-hmm. You could be passive aggressive. I'm going to be the one that initiates and come on, let's talk about it to where you finally have to, instead of just leaving them be. And if they have a problem, they have to learn to come tell me.
Right. And I think the part where I feel like that's probably going to be a common issue with anyone who's been in these abusive relationships, because you get to a point where you are anticipating their every move, their mood, and you are changing your behavior, what you're going to do, what you're going to say based on how you think they're going to react.
Yes.
So I think, that's really difficult to then just relax.
Yeah.
And
I think it was towards the end of that podcast episode when my partner and I were talking where we kind of both talked about if we could go back to our younger selves and tell each other, here's what you should do differently in relationships. We both said being more honest, because when you've been in that type of relationship in the past where you felt like you had to figure out the perfect way to say something so that they didn't get mad or upset, you weren't honest a lot of times. It was very strategic. It was very calculated. You didn't feel like you could just be open and transparent and forthcoming. So as soon as possible in a new relationship, that's what you need to be doing. You need to be saying the thing, even if you're afraid they might not like you, or they might disagree with it, or they might get upset about it. You need to be as honest as possible, because how they respond to that, again, it's going back to the first thing we talked about. How they respond to your honesty tells you so much about what kind of partnership they're going to be in with you. Mm-hmm. If they get crazy about it, right? If they get super mad, if they don't handle it well, if they're trying to argue with you, this is good information for you to have now.
Right. But before you get sucked into a situation where you feel like you're stuck.
Yes. Yes.
I listened to that episode, and I think you asked him, like, or you told him what I'm worried. Like he liked to cook for you, or likes to cook. He does all the cooking.
He does like all the cooking. Yep.
And you said, but I'm worried about, like, are you going to one day be upset that you're doing all the cooking? And as soon as you said that, I was like, oh my gosh, yes, exactly. I would be thinking the exact same thing. Like, how do I know you're okay with this?
Yeah.
And for whatever.
Not my job.
Right.
Like, that's ultimately what it comes down to, is like, it's not my job to anticipate that or figure out when that has happened or just believe that that's going to be the case. What my job is to be an open and receptive partner, to make communicating with me a safe thing to do, so that if at some point he's like, you know what, like, I'm just tired of doing all the meals. Like, can we reevaluate this? That's a fine conversation to have. And I also want a relationship where he knows I'm not going to try to just figure that out. If he doesn't want to do it at some point, he needs to communicate that to me.
Right.
Like, I'm not going to do that emotional labor for him.
And okay, so this just popped in my head. So I was sort of conditioned to always, anytime something was done, even though it was like a partnership and it was just, partners do things for partners, that if he had done something that wasn't immediately followed by over the top gratitude from me, then it was like, did you not just notice what I did? Like, how come you're not paying attention
Here's my
to what
question.
I just did? Yeah.
Does that go both ways?
Right. And that's the thing. Like, I would do things and they would just go, it was like unnoticed.
Yeah.
But I think if I were to take your situation, if I were in that situation, I would wonder, am I supposed to go over the top? Like, thank you so much for this meal that you just cooked. It's the most delicious, BLT I've ever had.
What's the difference? Like, if I were to ask you, if I had no idea what you're talking about when you say over the top, what would be over the top gratitude versus gratitude?
Well, instead of like, hey, thanks for making dinner tonight, it was good.
Yeah.
It had to be like, oh my gosh, this dinner, and it could be something, a boxed up mac and cheese. Like, this is the most delicious mac and cheese I've ever had.
Yeah.
It's
when you
better
think about
than-
doing that, what's the feeling that you're having?
Oh, it's fake. It's not authentic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Performative, let's say. Right? And you have to, because you're afraid of what happens if you don't.
Exactly. Yes.
That's very different than, I just want to be a grateful partner. I don't want to take things for granted. So I'm like, thanks a lot for making dinner. I really appreciate that you made dinner. It's really good. Like, that's what I do. That's what he does also, because we just want to have a relationship that we don't take for granted, that we remember to say, like, you didn't have to do all of this. I want you to know I recognize that and I appreciate it. That feels very different than, oh my gosh, like, you're just the best ever. This is amazing. I just don't deserve you. Thank you so much for doing this. And I'm having to do that every night because I'm afraid of what happens if I don't do that.
Right. Yeah.
I think that's the difference.
So, pretty much everything with dating, it boils down to communication, knowing yourself, which I think that's probably one of the hardest parts of all of it, honestly, is because, again, like, abuse just kind of dismantles who you were at the beginning of the relationship, and you come out, a shell of what you used to be, and to figure out how to put all those pieces back together and figure out who you are, it's like you have to re-identify your identity. And you have to know all of that. So then you know your boundaries. I was talking to somebody about, like, love, and then there really should not be anything as unconditional love unless it's like a parent to a child, because unconditional means no boundaries.
Right.
And healthy relationships have boundaries.
Yep. I was watching I'm a sucker for reality TV, like trash TV shows where it's like Love is Blind, and The Ultimatum, which they're horrible when it comes to relationship stuff. Just awful examples.
Right.
And something that I see all the time is like these people who have really unhealthy dynamics. Like they're just not, there's like a major compatibility issue. They're hurting each other all the time. And they're like, but I'm so in love. Like, I just love them so much. I've never loved anyone else. And what I am always thinking is like, we can love people that are terrible for us. Mm-hmm. Like, love is not the deciding factor. I think too much emphasis is placed on just the feelings we have, because we can have feelings for so many different kinds of people. That doesn't mean they're a good fit for us. Mm-hmm. Like, when it comes down to it, yes, do I want to love someone? Of course. And do they engage in relationship the same way that I do? Do they communicate in a way that works really well with me? Do we have similar ways of expressing love? Do we have the same kind of daily routines that are going to mesh well? Do we want the same things for our lives? Like, it's all those compatibility things that matter more so than just I have feelings for them.
All right. Because I mean, you can love friends. You can love a lot of people. Yes. And that doesn't mean that that's the person that you should be living with. And yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
The other thing I was going to say about, the, like, how do you accept and get used to like good, healthy affection, words of affirmation, support. And one of the other things I thought about was that I have practiced that has been new for me in my current relationship is being really honest about when I'm feeling uncomfortable with it. Like when I notice it being hard, when I notice it stirring up like any worries or concerns because in the past X, Y, Z happened because, I wasn't paying attention or blah, 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 or it didn't feel okay. Just being open about that and not asking them to necessarily do anything different, but just saying like, I just want you to know, like, this is a stretch for me. Like, I'm practicing, and I think it helps to have a partner who's like, that's okay. Like, we can go at your pace. Totally fine. And I even think it can be helpful to come up with like code words for like naming, like, that's what's happening here. Maybe like he's trying to give me compliments or do something for me or offer support, and he doesn't feel like I'm receiving it. Like I'm like resistant to it or pushing it away. He can say the code word. It's like this what's happening right now? Like, is this thing coming up? Or vice versa. If like he's trying to do something and I'm like, ooh, I notice it happening in me, I can just say the code word. So we don't even have to go into a big discussion about it. There's nothing to like fix. It's just like, oh, let's have a moment of awareness that like there's this thing in the room with us right now,
See, I love that. That shows like the mutual respect for each other too, which is super key.
Because it's not really about the like surface level thing, whether it's like financially he wants to help, or he's gone out of his way to do X, Y, or Z, or he's being really complimentary. Whatever it is, that's the surface level thing. So we don't need to get into any kind of like argument about that thing and what's okay and what's not okay. It's like underneath that, the surface level thing is stirring other stuff up, like old stuff.
Right. And I mean, I know I'm carrying around a lot of old stuff. I'm still in therapy, which is fine. And I feel like I have a very good self-awareness. But, just having a conversation once with a friend who had asked, what would you do if you were ever dating somebody and he asked you to quit your job? And immediately it was like prickly. I'm like, no, because I'm independent and I'm not going to depend on him. And he said, well, what if that's not the intention? What if the intention is you're killing yourself working so much? And, I have the financial capability of taking off some of that load so you can concentrate more on, whatever. And I said, that sounds a lot better But I think I personally would still have little pricklies up, and I definitely wouldn't just jump into that.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing I keep coming back to is like, you don't have to accept anything. It doesn't matter how they want to support you or how they want to give affection or whatever. If it doesn't feel like a good fit for you, whether it's just not a good fit right now, or it may not ever be a good fit, it's just not what you like, you don't have to accept or like anything just because your partner does. You can still say like, that's just a no for me. And how they respond to that is everything.
Yes. Yes,
right? If
that
they
is
can
the
see
response
it, it's like,
part.
I would love to, but clearly it's like not your thing. Okay.
Right.
If they make it into, well, I want to, and clearly you won't let me love you. Like, you're not letting me take care of you the way I want to take care of you, and you should, and it's going to be hurtful to me if you don't. Like, that's more of a problem.
Yeah.
You
That's
know?
not such a good thing. That's a control issue.
Yeah. Yeah.
And definitely, like, in the initial stages of dating, I have told my friends many times, I'm like, you don't owe them anything. So, you know, they want to go on a second date, you don't have to say yes to a second date. Or they have expectations of getting physical because of, you know, whatever preceded that. You don't owe them anything. And in a relationship, I think it's somewhat true. You don't, but I wouldn't say you don't owe them anything. Like, I think you owe a respect, and you owe, you know, consideration of feelings, and it does adjust a little bit at that point. But
yeah, but it's just a different scenario when it's early in a relationship and you're not even in a relationship yet. You know, like dating is not the same as being in a relationship. There was something else I was just about to say. Oh, there was a dating coach who I loved and followed. I like binged her podcast when I started dating. Her name is Lily Womble. And there's something that she said, I heard it over and over again on her social media and whatnot, but essentially it's that you can't say the wrong thing to the right person.
oh, I like that.
You know, so if you need boundaries, if you say this is making me uncomfortable, if you say, I just don't want to do that right now, if they have a big reaction to it, they're just not your right person. Because the right person will be like, oh, okay. Like, you and I might be different, but like, okay, this is not a problem. And I think it's easy to like get into this, like, who's in the right, who's in the wrong kind of scenario. Like, oh, he did something bad, or you should be more X, Y, or Z. And I think we just need to do away with that. It's just like, oh, so here's more information. And that information is suggesting to me that we may have some differences that are not compatible with a long-term relationship.
Right. Like, we might be great together in all these other ways, and we fit so well. And like, on paper, we should be riding off into the sunset together. But in reality, I'm just not the person for you, or you're just not the person for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just there's always opportunity to practice stuff. That's what it is. And Messy, one of my coach friends who coaches on like marriage and relationships, she's just always like, messy is better than perfect. Because messy has you out there doing it. We're never going to get it perfect. And if we keep waiting for it to be that way before we get started, we never actually figure it out.
Right.
Like, messy means you're at least doing it and attempting and figuring it out.
And messy's real.
Yeah. When we're also trying to like do relationships differently, really with anything, but in particular relationships, there can also be a sense of like, if I didn't state the boundary, like if I realize after the fact, right, that like, ooh, that didn't feel good. Ooh, I should have spoken up. Ooh, I wanted to have a boundary there and I didn't. There is no rule book that says you can't bring it up after the fact. There's no rule book that says you can't change your mind. Something that you said was okay is now not okay. And again, it's like, I want to know how the other person responds to that conversation. Like,
Yeah.
I know I said I was okay with it, but the more I've been thinking about it, there's just something that feels off, and I actually don't think I like it. Could we please not do X, Y, or Z? Could you not X, Y, or Z? You know, I need more of whatever turns out. And how they respond, if they're like, what, but you said, and now you're just taking it back, and, well, I don't understand why it was fine. That's not what we want. That's a big red flag, right? That's a big red X. We want someone who's like, oh, okay, well, like, I was kind of hoping for whatever, but if it's just not feeling okay for you right now, that's not a problem. Like, okay, that'll be fine. We can reorient. Like, sure, we can go back to X, Y, or Z.
Right.
But if you're not having that conversation, like, it's okay if you missed an opportunity, or if you realize, ooh, it was my old pattern coming up, and now I see it clearly. By all means, go and have that conversation now that you've recognized it.
Yes.
Like, that's the messy part.
Right.
You know?
Well, I have a friend who is saying, you know, I feel bad. He's so nice and he's trying really hard. And I know that I'm a lot. And and I said, why are you apologizing for who you are? And, you know, like, I know I make it hard for him. I'm just trying to make it easier. I'm like, why are you trying to make it easy for him? If he actually legitimately likes you and like the actual real you,
you're not
then
too
it shouldn't
much for
be
the right
hard.
person.
Right.
No. I spent so much, I think it had to do with my undiagnosed ADHD, but my pattern in relationships was, we have to keep a lid on it, on the too muchness. You have to keep a lid on all the too muchness, because we need to make sure they like us first before they see all of that.
Right.
You know, and let out a little bit at a time. Once they're like in and committed, that was the absolute wrong way to go about it. Because I need to have all the too muchness out there from the get-go. Do they like that? Because that's the only way it's going to work with me.
Yes. You know,
I don't want to tamp down who I am.
No. And one of my friends who we all kind of jumped into this Facebook dating thing all at the same time. We live in different locations, so there was no like cross whatever. But we were just comparing notes, and one of them said, hey, look into this book. It's like a dating app book or whatever. And so I downloaded the Audible and I was listening to it. And I said, okay, I'm having a hard time taking advice from a 20-year-old. We are at totally different stages in our lives, you know? And one of the things that she said is, you know, make sure they don't see all of you right out of the gate. And I was like, well, I mean, I know that I can be, you know, a bit much, but that's also me, you know, like, why I don't want you to find, like, why am I going to hold off on you finding out now and wait until 2 years down the line? And like, okay, now you get to see the real me.
No. I was just telling one of my teenage daughters yesterday about an experience I had on Hinge. I think it was on Hinge, where I matched with a guy and we were chatting, and chatting seemed to be going well. We were making plans to maybe like go meet up somewhere. And then he asked if I was on Instagram, and I was like, yes. And he was like, well, can I see your profile? And I was like, okay. So I sent it, and then immediately in my body, I was like, because I have a lot of like quirky stuff on Instagram. I dance around. I like to be silly. You know, it's very me. And I had an instant moment of panic of like, oh no. And I started to apologize for it. Like, hey, you know, I know it's a lot, blah, blah, blah. Next thing I know, my chat has disappeared. And he unmatched.
Oh my gosh.
Which just like means it's just vanished. You know, all the chatting has vanished. And I had such rejection. But like, a lot of people with ADHD have RSD, which is rejection sensitive dysphoria.
Okay.
And so like any perceived rejection criticism is like a very physical, like painful very intense thing. It was awful. It felt awful because I knew he saw my Instagram. He saw more of who I was and my personality and was like, that's a no. That felt terrible at the time. And also, like, now that I have some space from it, right? Like, I boohooed about it. I called a friend because it just hurt, did not feel good. But thank God he weeded himself out.
Right. Because, I mean, you don't want to be with somebody.
Right.
Like, I think you also, I know I didn't like stalk you. I just listened to your podcast, but you said something about like how you get with your sister and you're goofy and whatever. Yeah. I was cracking up because my sister and I are so strange.
Yes.
And we can be over the top. And like, I think you mentioned that your ex didn't like it when you guys were together.
Oh, no.
And we've
dreaded it.
Yes, we've each been in relationships where, like, our partners, whether we were married to them or not, was like, I just,
It's like I was keeping it stuffed in.
Yeah.
So when my sister and I were together, it finally had a way to come out.
Right.
And they did not like that.
And
we want to know if someone, like, it's very counterintuitive. It does not feel like it's the way it should be when you have tried to be a people pleaser your whole life and avoided conflict and you've wanted everyone to like you. But now, like, to be in a really good relationship and be dating, you want to know if someone doesn't like something. You want to know if someone isn't interested. You want to know if someone is like, that's not compatible with me. Like, that's not what I'm into. That's great information. And thank God they're being honest about it so that you don't get attached to someone who's not going to be a good fit for you and let you be who you are.
Oh, yeah.
It's not saying something about you is wrong. It's just not for them, which means someone else is for you. Yep. I don't want to have to hide any of that for someone else. And to go from, I want someone to pick me to, yeah, that feels good, but I need to be doing the picking. Like, what I think and what I want and what I need matters a whole lot. That was a big, big shift for me.
Yeah. I mean, I started looking at life over the last few years. I'm like, you know what? I would love a partner. And I have, friends who they're remarried and, I look at them, I'm like, oh, that's just what a lovely little family. And I would love to have that. I'm not opposed to it at all, but I'm also not sitting and pining away for like, I have to have that relationship. I'm just going to be okay with where I am. And I looked in the mirror one time and I'm like, I choose me. I'm not going to choose like, let me not be me so I can fit into this mold. So then I can find like the ideal partner to live the rest of my life with. Like, no, I'll just choose me. And then at some point somebody else is going to choose me too. Maybe not.
Yeah.
But I'm okay with it. Either way.
I felt kind of bad for a while. Like, I wondered if something was wrong with me because I tend to be a very, like, independent, like, self-reliant woman. And at the same time, there's this part of me that's like, I was single technically, I guess, I'm usually like a serial monogamist. Like, I get into relationships, I'm in them for a while, and I'm all in. And so I didn't date for that long, and I didn't swear off dating for that long after my last relationship ended. I felt kind of bad about that. Like, is there something wrong with me that I can't be alone? And thank God most of my friends are coaches because I could always like have a coach on speed dial.
That's awesome.
And it was just like, but what if it's okay that it's just something I want in my life?
Yeah.
And I just like being in relationship. I feel very fulfilled. I feel very joyful in relationship. So by all means, go for it. But how am I going to go for it this time? How am I going about it? Like, I don't have to be single forever. I don't have to like spend a certain amount of time just being single to show myself I can do it or anything like that. Like, I want a relationship. By all means, go find a relationship. And am I living my life the way I want to? Am I doing things that I enjoy? Am I being my full self and getting myself out of the house, doing things that are of interest to me? all while being open to meeting someone. Like, that's the way to do it. I didn't make it my sole focus. I made it very intentional, but it also had to fit into the life I wanted to have for myself.
Okay. Is there anything else that you can think of?
I don't think so. I mean, there's so many things I can talk about.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, I think
maybe we should do this again.
Covered some good stuff.
Yeah, I think so. I think definitely a lot. I'll get some feedback, and then if there is more stuff, then maybe we can have you back on. Before we go, can you just go over like if your podcast name again, and then if any socials or whatever, if you want for people to find you.
So my website, if you are interested in working with me, I'm taking on one-on-one clients. My website is kimberlymathis.com, and you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at the Kimberly Mathis. And my podcast is called Life Coached on Spotify and Apple.
Okay. And I'll have links to all of that in the show notes. And then I know you created a guest profile for the 1 in 3 website. So all of that will be there too.
Awesome.
Very easy for people to find you. But thank you so much for coming on. I'm glad it was nice to have a nice light
thank you so much for having me. It's great.
It's an important topic. I'm very excited. Thank you. All right.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
That was a super fun episode to record. So thank you again, Kimberly, for joining me. And thank all of you for listening. The links that Kimberly referred to will be found in the show notes, along with the link to her 1 in 3 website profile. I will be back next week with another episode for you. Until then, stay strong. And wherever you are in your journey, always remember you are not alone. Find more information, register as a guest, or leave a review by going to the website 1in3podcast.com. That's the number 1, IN, the number 3, podcast.com. Follow 1 in 3 on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at 1 in 3 podcast. To help me out, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. 1 in 3 is a .5 Pinoy production. Music written and performed by Tim Crow.